So, welcome to the Weekly Shred. My name is Jim Schultz here with F-Cubed, and it's a Thursday night, man. You guys made it. You made it to the Weekly Shred. So, what we try and do here on the Weekly Shred every Thursday night, we try to do all things physique development, right? All things physique enhancement without the use of PEDs. Just trying to get you guys a little studio space over there in Shredsville. So, I got a good little topic ready to go tonight, man. We're going to talk about why I can't lose weight, why you can't lose weight, why one cannot lose weight. And so I think that this is something that we've all had to, deal with or come to grips with at one point or another, when it's like, man, despite my best efforts, right, despite my really pushing all the chips in the middle on getting to Shredsville, the scale will not cooperate, right? The mirror does not look any different. So what am I doing wrong? Like, what's going on? What can I do differently? I'm going to give you guys 4 reasons that might explain why you're not losing weight. And I think you guys will gain a little something from tonight's piece. So, if you guys are here for the first time, hey, drop me a hashtag new down in the little YouTube chat there. I would love to kind of say hello and connect with you, and I really appreciate you very, very much. If you guys are a regular viewer of the Shred, then you guys are my absolute favorite. So, all right, so here's what we're going to do tonight. So let's talk about the 4 reasons why you might not be losing weight. So reason number 1. You guys ready for this? It's not going to surprise you. You're eating too much. So reason number 1 is you are putting too much stuff into your pie hole. This is the number 1 reason why I see people not be able to lose weight. Why I see people struggle with their weight loss. Oh, so Dr. Z popped in on the comments. So check this out. Boom, there's Dr. Z. Got some new functionality here. Finally able to bring the comments in. So Dr. Z says he's an old-time viewer. Hey, Dr. Z, you are, man, and I really appreciate you for checking out the Shred tonight. You're a regular viewer of the Shred. Hey, thank you very much. I'm so excited that I'm finally able to pull the comments over. So if you guys hit me up in the chat, man, you might make it on screen. Might be part of the show tonight. So, all right, so reason number 1 is you're eating too much. So, all right, guys. I know this is kind of tough to hear, right? I know that some of you are thinking, Jim, that's not super fun, man. Like, that's not why I tuned in tonight. Like, I want to be encouraged, and I want to be inspired, and I want to be lifted up. I don't want to be told that I'm eating too much when I am doing my very best to basically eat nothing. The reality is, from just a purely mathematical sense, if you are not gaining weight, you are eating too much. Primarily from your fuel sources, right? So we know that the different macro breakdowns, you have your protein, you have your carbs, you have your fats, right? It's pretty difficult to overeat on protein. It's not impossible, but it's pretty difficult to store fat from excess protein consumption. So we don't really need to worry about that. Now, that doesn't mean that we should go hog wild and just start, tearing apart, chicken breasts supersetted with brisket every night. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that's not usually the issue. The issue, of course, is those delicious carbs, right? Those fats and those carbs, or those fats and those carbs together, i.e. carbs. Those fuel sources, if you are not losing weight, then by definition, your fuel sources are too high, right? You are feeding, the engine, you are fueling the gas tank with a little bit too much, right? And so as a result, you've got to pare that thing down. You've got to take that thing down a little bit. And of course, this is why, you guys already know what I'm going to say here, right? This is why I'm such a huge fan of macros, because it just makes it simple, tracking your macros, because then you know where you're at, right? You're like, all right, I know where I'm at with my carbs, I know where I'm at with my fats, I know where I'm at with my protein and whatever, and if it's not working, I know how to adjust. Now, to be fair though, it doesn't mean that macros are the only way. They certainly are not the only way, right? You could be doing keto, you could be doing intermittent fasting, you could be doing paleo, hey, you could be doing the alkaline diet. Just kidding. Nobody actually thinks that that's a good idea. But if you do, I'd love to know. Let me know in the comment section, because I'm going to light you up. But whatever you decide to do, if it's not working, right? If you're not seeing the scale go lower, then you're eating too much, right? If you're on keto, you're having too much bacon. If you're intermittent fasting, then, in your 3-hour feeding window, it's a little too grandiose of a feeding window. And then paleo and alkaline and whatever, right? You're eating too much. You're fueling your body with too much fuel, more fuel than it needs. So it really is that simple. So reason number one is you are eating too much. And then we got Dr. Z, who hit us up again. He said, hey, I was in a rush today and I bought a grilled turkey and cheese sandwich from Tim Hortons. It was terrible and way too many carbs. So quick shout out to Tim Hortons, right? So I grew up in Detroit, and we have Tim Hortons in Detroit. And I know that that's primarily a Canadian thing, but it's so cool that you threw a little Tim Hortons action on the shred tonight, because I've had many a Tim Hortons coffee in my day growing up as a youngster in Detroit. My sister, who still lives in Detroit, she loves Tim Hortons, and every time we go there, she wants to take us and go get coffee from Tim Hortons. I can't say I've ever had a grilled turkey and cheese sandwich from Tim Hortons. That doesn't even sound good. Like that definitely doesn't sound like it's worth the carbs that you've got to pay for that sandwich. And then we got my man Jones, my man R Jones, who said, I have eaten only protein, no carbs, but still did not lose weight. Well, okay, so that's a really, really good point. So I can't imagine that you're only eating protein, right? Nobody only eats protein throughout the day, right? Because we have to have some fuel source at some point. And my second reason that we're going to get into here in a second there, R. Jones, I think it's going to help you out a little bit, right? Nobody eats protein and that's all they eat, right? So there is some fuel source that's happening there. And if you're eating steak, then you have fat as your fuel source, right? So steak is a good example. It's a lot of protein, but it's also a lot of fat. Especially, man, if you've got yourself a good ribeye, good T-bone, right? You've got a lot of fat in those steaks, in those cuts of meat. And so your primary fuel source there is actually fat. It's not carbohydrates, which is fine, of course, right? I mean, that's what kind of keto prides itself on, is using fat as fuel as opposed to using glucose and glycogen and carbohydrates as fuel. So the fuel source is coming from somewhere there, Jones. If you're not losing weight, then the fuel is just too high. So you're eating a little bit too much. So man, you guys are hitting me up hardcore on these comments, man. This is fun. So Josh Simpson, dude, Dude, you sent me a text like 2.5 weeks ago, and I never responded, man. And so I am sorry. We've become friends over the years. You know, I'm not very good with that, and it's a huge shortcoming of mine. And so give me about another 2 to 3 weeks, and I'll get back to you, man. But does 10 cups of coffee count as the alkaline diet? I think that's all you do, actually. I think all you do on the alkaline diet is you just drink coffee because it balances out your pH levels inside of your body. That's what the internet told me. So I'm pretty sure that's correct. And so then Jones said no carbs, but my keto level 0.4 to 0.5. I gotta be honest with you, man. I actually don't know what that means, and so I'm not a keto guy. I've never done keto before. There's a comment that Jones dropped on us. I don't even know what that means, man. Honestly, and so I wish I could help you there, but I can't. But I would just for you. The fats are going to be the fuel source. So you're not using carbohydrates as your fuel source. You're using fats as your fuel source. So, all right, so reason number one is you're eating too much. Okay, that probably didn't surprise you. But let's move on. So reason number two, you're still eating too much. Reason number two, you are still eating too much. 99% of the time, right? I've been doing this for a long time. Right? Reason number one, you're eating too much. Reason number two, you're still eating too much. I've been doing this for a really long time, guys. This is the thing that fixes the issues 98 to 99% of the time. And here's what I mean by this. I want to push this a little bit further. And this might even help you out a little bit, Jones. Are you really tracking everything that you're eating? Right? Because people will say to me, they'll say, Jim, dude, I'm doing it, man. I'm doing everything. I'm weighing everything. I'm tracking everything. I'm really monitoring my nutrition. Like I'm like, that's amazing. But let's be honest. Let's be real with ourselves. Are you tracking every single thing that goes into your mouth? Now, I'm not saying that you need to do this. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily the best course of action. But what I am saying is if you're struggling to lose weight and you're frustrated, this might be the thing that you need to do. You need to track every single thing that goes into your mouth to the gram. Because I'm telling you guys, man, those bites, those licks, those nibbles, those tastes, those sniffs, they add up, man. They add up. A handful of almonds, that could easily be 250, 300 calories. And I mean, if you're doing a modest deficit like you should, that might be your whole deficit. And then all of a sudden it's like, deficit's gone. Right? Like, why am I not losing weight? It's that handful of almonds, right? It could very well just be that handful of almonds. Hey, those 3 Oreos that you snuck in that you thought nobody saw, or your body saw, or your love handles saw, and they enjoyed them a whole lot. But there goes your whole deficit, right? Now all of a sudden, you might be in a slight surplus. Hey, that corn dog that you accidentally ate, you're like, whoa, I don't even know what happened. But the next thing I know, I'm knee deep, in a frozen corn dog, and it's like, what's going on? Deficit gone. Welcome to a surplus. And so these things, these bites, these licks, these nibbles, they add up, man. And I've seen it so much in working with so many people throughout the years, the athletes inside of Full Throttle, just people at the gym that I get to know. Hey, my own personal experience and my own personal history. I mean, this is something that I have to battle myself all the time, right? I fight the cabinets all the time. When I'm in a serious shred season, and I'm really trying to get serious about fat loss, I battle the cabinets just like you guys do. Right? I'm not a robot. I'm not immune to these things. And so I understand these things. I can connect with you all who are struggling with these very same things. The other thing I want to say, and it looks like we got a few new comments, and I'll get to those. Oh, those are just Tasty Critter comments. Yeah, we'll look at those later. But the other thing that I'm just kidding, of course. The other thing that I want to point out is, how about treat day? How about treat day or cheat day or free day or whatever you want to call it, right? This is another thing that I see happen all the time. People will they will work their buns off with a Z, Monday through Friday. And then come time Saturday, they're like, man, I've worked my tail off. I've only got 1 bun left. I'm going to treat myself, right? I am going to reward myself. So the next thing you know, you've got a tri-set set up with, pizza and Krispy Kreme donuts and onion rings. And you run through that 3-4 times. And the next thing you know, you've just put away 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 extra calories in one meal. Now, of course, I'm being a little facetious, but I'm sort of not, because that's not that hard to do. That's not that hard to do at all. And so, I mean, you can easily do the math, right? Let's say Monday through Friday, you've got a very modest 400 calorie deficit every day, right? Very good, very modest, very sustainable. I love it already. That's a nice 2,000 calorie deficit for the week. It's very easy, guys, to blow that on a Saturday or a Sunday. Very, very easy. And then the next thing you know, your weight goes nowhere, it bounces back up, and you start the next week feeling like, man, I didn't make any progress. I'm just starting back over from square one. I've got to, make up for what I just did, the last couple of days. I see it all the time. And so if you might be working your tail off Monday through Friday, but if Saturday and Sunday are just too crazy, if Saturday and Sunday are just a little bit too wild and free, you might be undoing all the work that you're trying to, do, and all the progress that you actually did make on, Monday through Friday. And so for those of you that are really, really puzzled, right, that are really like, man, I just don't understand why I can't lose weight. It's almost certainly one of these two reasons. A, you're eating too much just in a general sense, or B, you think you have a really good handle on what you're eating, but those bites, those licks, those nibbles, or that treat day, it is doing more damage than you realize. And I understand that you're thinking, Jim, that's not me. Like, that's not what I'm doing. Like, I know. I've heard it for many, 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 many years. You just need to give yourself a real honest evaluation. Go through a very honest and sincere audit of what you're doing, and you will figure out what the issue is. So, all right, so Tasty Trader said, oh, hey, Josh, it took him 8 months to read my email. Don't hold your breath. Yeah, that's true. It did. And I wrote you back, and you never responded, so I'm not exactly sure what to do about that. But, Dr. Jim, what if I'm still starving? Well, then you just need to eat more. You don't need my help for that. In fact, we'll drop that one on the screen. Dr. Jim, what if I'm still starving? Then you need to eat more. Then you do need to consider the tri-set of the pizza, the donuts, the onion rings. I think that's right up your alley. And if I know you, Tasty Trader, I know that you love yourself some carbs, so that's not going to be too difficult. So, okay, so here we go. I ate 200 calories less yesterday, and I was up 2 pounds this morning. What gives? So that's a great question, and that's going to sort of be a segue into reasons number 3 and 4. But let me also comment on something that's not inside of reason number 3 and 4. Your body weight, and not just you, Tasty Trader, but anyone's body weight, our body weight from one day to the next, it can do some really crazy things, right? It can do some really unpredictable things. It's kind of stock market-esque in that regard, right? In that you can do everything right, and the next day, your body weight stays the same. Your body weight goes higher. You can do everything wrong. The next day, your body weight goes lower. Your body weight stays the same. It can do some really, really crazy things. And that's because there are so many things that are working together inside of our systems at any moment in time. Not only is it the caloric deficit that we might have, but in the real short term, like in an acute sense, I mean, it's how much glycogen your body is holding, how much water your muscles are holding, how much water is kind of, outside of your muscle tissue and underneath your skin, and things of that nature. Your cortisol levels, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. And so that's why when it comes to monitoring weight loss, I much prefer, like with the Athletes Inside of Full Throttle, you guys know this, man. We do it on a weekly basis. It's much, much better. We weigh every day because we don't want to be surprised by only weighing, one day a week. And it happens to be that one day when, everything is working against us, and now psychologically we're just damaged, right? I mean, that absolutely happens. So we weigh every day, but it's just a data point, guys. It's just one data point. Like when you weigh one day, it's just a data point. And also, Tasty Trader, I'd be curious if you trained legs the day before this weigh-in. So you said, I ate 200 calories yesterday. Did you train legs yesterday? So I can just say from personal experience, and I actually know that a lot of other people are like this too. Every single time I train legs, every single time, my body weight goes higher the next day. It does not matter how much or how little I might eat. I mean, I could be knee deep in a competition prep. I could be 17, 18, 20 weeks into the prep, and my calories are super low. My macros are non-existent. But if I go in and I thrash my quads, the following day, my body weight's going higher. There's nothing I can do about that. And so it's just a very interesting phenomenon that I've noticed for myself that you might also have noticed in your own situation. So I'd be curious to know that. So let's see. So a handful of bubble gum So Diane wants to know if we have to count a handful of Jolly Ranchers. Well, so a handful of bubblegum, yes, you need to count your handful of bubblegum, even if it's sugar-free, by the way. Because if you look more closely on those packages, there's like 5 to 10 calories per stick of gum. And some of you are thinking, all right, Jim, like I was tracking with you for the first 14 minutes, bro, but now you're talking about 5 calories for a stick of gum, like we've really gotten to that point? Yeah, we have. And the reason why is a lot of people don't have 1 stick of gum. You have 4, 5, 6 sticks of gum a day, right? And the next thing you know, that's an extra 20, 30, 40 calories a day. That's an extra 300 calories a week. That's like an extra 3.5 pounds every year that you didn't even realize that you were, putting on your frame, and, there it is. So I hope that juicy fruit was worth it. But Diane wants to know about a handful of Jolly Ranchers. Diane knows that her Jolly Ranchers are free. I don't have to answer that. And so I find my body, so Josh also says I find my body needs 2 weeks to get back into a groove, start losing weight again when I stuff off for a few days. Man, I would say I'm probably similar. Maybe more like 8 to 10 days for me. But if I really do a number on my system, I mean, like if I really, like a Thanksgiving type of scenario where you really just kind of get after it, usually the next 2-3 days, it's all just water coming off, it's sodium coming off, it's glycogen levels depleting. Like the scale can do some crazy things. In fact, so here's a really crazy story. So when was this? This was in 2013, I think. So I did a bodybuilding competition in 2013. It actually got canceled when I got to the actual venue, which was 5.5 hours away. The show got canceled, so I never competed. But I was ready to hop on stage, and that just happens. It's happened a couple times in my career. But anyway, came back. We were in Charlotte, North Carolina at the time. Came back to Charlotte, and it was on, the bodybuilding show was on May 18th or it was on May 18th. In fact, now, man, I'm getting my shows all mixed up. This one was not canceled. No, this was the one that I competed in, and I took dead last. I took 10th out of 10. In fact, they didn't even want to give me 10th. I think they just want to say, like, listen, man, we're not even going to put you in the standings if that's okay with you. And I'm like, well, I showed up, and I paid my registration fee. Can I at least have 10th? And they were like, okay. So I took 10th out of 10 guys. And it was the show was on May 18th. So the next day was May 19th. And so we were in Charlotte, North Carolina, and all my friends took me out for my birthday. Well, when I stepped on stage on May 18th, I was 180 pounds. When I got done with my birthday celebrations the following night, I stepped on the scale the following morning, I was 199 pounds. 19 pounds difference. Now, to be fair, I was 180 pounds, like, just with bodybuilding trunks on, no clothes, no anything. When I weighed the next day, I was at the gym, I had my tennis shoes on, I had my fanny pack on, so I was 199, just all garbed out. But even still, man, like, it was absolutely crazy. So your body can do some really crazy things. So let's see. And then Josh says, how long do you recommend for a refeed period? 1 week, 1 day, 1 hour? Usually refeeds, I've had a lot of success with a day. I don't really like an hour, and I certainly don't like a week. And so I'm assuming that there was a little internet sarcasm in there, which is always tricky for me to pick up on. So I can respect that. Usually I like a day, but there's some new research that I'm actually going to be doing some content around this in the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that. But there's some new research that suggests that if we have multiple day refeeds, like 2 days back to back, it can really do some really impressive things in helping us save and maintain our metabolic rates throughout a cutting period. So throughout some shred season or some period where you're really trying to get super lean, if you actually try back-to-back refeed days, it can do quite a bit for saving your metabolism, which, anyone who's ever gotten super lean, which I know, Josh, you certainly have, that hormone, it's going in the tubes, right? And so we need to hold on to that for as long as we can. So I personally, I'm a 1 day guy. I'm just a single day guy, but I like to plan them out, right? I just don't do well with just totally unchecked, untracked, unmonitored refeed days. I mean, my inner caged fat kid just wants to come out, and once he gets let loose in the forest, like there's no coming back from that. And so if you guys watched the shred last week, you guys know that I'm actually going through a period right now where I am intentionally not tracking for the first time in a really long time. I'm going through at least the month of September, possibly even longer, but I still don't like to just completely let myself go crazy, because that never ends well. And so hopefully that helps you out a little bit. So, okay, So reason one, great comments, guys. This is fun, man. This is super fun. I can bring the comments on the screen now. The technology is actually working. The stream is actually decent, I think. So this is good, man. Keep dropping me some questions and comments. I'm having a good time. I hope you guys are too. So reason number one, you're eating too much. Reason number two, you're still eating too much. Reason number three, believe it or not, is not you're still eating too much, although it probably should be. Reason number three is actually lack of sleep. So I see this a surprising amount of the time. So what do I mean by a lack of sleep? Well, here's basically what I mean. So it's 2020, man. Like, I know we all lead like super busy lives, right? Like, we are all just go, go, go. We're all trying to get as much done as we possibly can, squeeze as much productivity out of the day as absolutely possible. Well, if getting to Shredsville is one of your goals, if you are serious about changing your physique, not in a flash in the pan type way, but in a sustainable way where you're going to maintain, most of that look moving forward, then sleep needs to be a huge priority for you. Not only will you feel better, not only will you be more alert, not only will your performance increase, all these things are going to happen, of course, but from a weight loss specific standpoint, oftentimes with some of the athletes I've worked with some of the people that I've coached, with some of the students inside of Full Throttle, this has come up a few times where there's been some sticking points, there's been some plateaus, and we just kind of put our detective hats on, and I'm like, all right, looking at the situation, I actually think that this individual is tracking their macros. I think the numbers are true to form, once we've kind of looked at that and figured out, what's going on with that. I'm like, all right, man. I'm like, hey, what's going on with your sleep? Tell me a little bit more about your sleep. And guys, I've seen it happen more than a handful of times. People are like, well, I sleep, 5-6 hours a night, 4.5 hours a night. I'm really busy. I got a lot to do. I've got my day job. I'm working on my side hustle. I got all this stuff. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. That's why you're not losing weight, or at least one of the reasons why you're not losing weight. And here is the reason why that's a problem. So we have this hormone in our bodies called cortisol, right? Which Tasty Trader, you kind of brought this up just a second ago. But cortisol is more commonly referred to as a stress hormone, or the stress hormone. Whenever our body is under stress, our cortisol levels spike, and it's a good thing, right? It's a positive thing because it keeps us, alert. It keeps us sharp. It allows us to navigate, problems and find solutions and all of those things. And when we train in the gym, our cortisol levels increase. So it's a necessary positive thing. But when our cortisol levels are chronically spiked, what that means is our body just feels like it's constantly under stress. It just feels like it's constantly under attack. And so when your body is in that state of being, it's not interested in getting you to Shredsville. It doesn't care about, how lean you are, how ripped you might be, right? How shredded you might be. It could care less about that. It's just trying to make it to the next whatever, the next way station, the next level, the next hour, the next whatever. And when you don't get enough sleep, your cortisol levels will be chronically elevated in your system. Absolutely, unequivocally, will happen every single time. Now, the variable in this equation is how much sleep you specifically need. That actually does vary quite a bit from one person to the next. But I think a good, safe number is at least 7 hours a night. You got to be getting at least 7 hours a night. Of course, 8 would be better. 8.5 would be phenomenal. 7.5 would be phenomenal. But I understand, right? I've got 3 small kids, man. I understand, right? Josh got like 19 kids. He knows, right? This stuff is not always doable. It's not always possible. But if your fitness is something you want to prioritize, I think 7 hours a night is very, very reasonable. And so if you haven't been able to lose weight and you've been like, man, I don't know what's going on here. Like, I just can't put my finger on what's happening. Check in. You will start to see the scale migrate south. So all right. So we got a couple of comments. So let's see. Tasty Trader, check. Lack of sleep. Thank you. Yep, that's exactly right. And so Tasty Trader was the anniversary of my son's hospitalization. Yeah. Man, that's wow. I'm sure that it was an emotional day. Tasty Trader, prayers for you. You and your son are in my regular prayers. I don't know that I've ever told you that before, but I want you to know that. I pray for you both specifically, probably once or twice a month. I would say just as part of my regular prayer schedule. So I wanted you to know that. But so Josh says, very interesting. Just a couple of weeks ago, I took a refeed. I noticed my body responded well to a couple of days. It's taking, let's see, it's taking a couple of weeks to recover from the week though. Yeah, it's possible, right? Again, if you push it a little bit too hard, if you push it a little bit too heavy on the refeeds, that is absolutely what can happen. So let's see. Josh says sleep is my nemesis. I seem to have almost too much on my plate. That's probably true, man. Honestly, that is probably true. And again, right? I mean, I'm not here to judge, right? You might be in a season of life right now that dictates that you can only sleep 5 hours a night or 6 hours a night, right? Maybe you do have too much going on. I can respect that. I really can. I know that you have, a big family yourself, and so I totally understand that. But you just have to understand that for every gimme, there's a gotcha. And so, the gimme gotcha there is just like, all right, like you're burning the candle and getting more work done, but the gotcha is you may not be able to achieve your fitness goals like you would like to right now. And it might be really detrimental for you to really go after them really hard anyway because your sleep levels are so low. That's when you get hurt. That's when you get injured. That's when all the crazy things kind of start to happen. So, many times so Josh says many times I get 6-7 hours of sleep, but it's not restful. Do you recommend any calming techniques to help the quality of sleep? So, what do you mean by not restful? Do you just kind of mean like, yeah? Tell me a little bit more about that. As far as calming techniques, honestly, the only thing that has really helped me, I've heard of a lot of different things, and like zinc, like zinc magnesium supplements and things like that. They might be good. They might not be good. I don't have much to say about those because I've not used them personally, and so I don't really want to. I don't really want to support something that I don't have any experience with myself. That's kind of a big deal for me. But a couple of things that have worked for me that are more natural things that you can start to do right away is number one, try to go to sleep at the same time every night. That does help significantly because your body can get into a rhythm. But also number two, the earlier you can go to sleep, again, for some people this is not going to be pragmatic, but the earlier that you can go to sleep, the the hours before midnight, I believe, are more valuable than the hours after midnight. I think that's how our circadian rhythms were developed. I think that they were kind of designed to, go to sleep at sunset and wake up at sunrise. So rather than like, going to bed at midnight and getting up at 7, if you go to bed at 10 and get up at 5, I think you'll feel a lot better. Now, there might be an adjustment involved, right? If that's not part of what you normally do, there might be some kind of a adjustment period that you'll have to kind of get used to. But yeah, those would be a couple of things that I would recommend. That's not really my wheelhouse, so I don't have a whole lot more to say about that. But those are definitely a couple of things. Let's see. Can you run out of cortisol when you're always adrenaline? So I think what you're referring to is adrenal fatigue. I actually don't know if adrenal fatigue is real. And so I'm just going to say that to kind of light that powder keg and then sort of walk away. Because this is another subject that I don't know a lot about. I've heard this term used a lot, and my doctor has used it with me before, and my doctor is terrific. Or the doctor I had in Chicago, she was amazing, right? But I'm not sure that I believe that adrenal fatigue is real. I don't know. I just don't know, right? I'm not saying it's not real. So let me be really clear. I haven't made up my mind yet. I have to do a little bit more research on that. So, can you run out of cortisol when you're always adrenaline? Basically, I think your question is, can you run into adrenal fatigue? I don't know. I'm not sure. Now, can you, of course, feel so run down that it's like, man, I need to rest? Of course. But is that adrenal fatigue? I don't know. Possibly. But I think that could also just be a buzz term that people have made up to try to, get more of something, more money, more power, more viewership, more. I'm not sure. So check back with me in, I don't know, a couple of weeks. maybe I'll have a little bit more to say about that. And so, yeah, so tossing and turning, crazy dreams, dreaming about work or current stressful situations. Yeah, the racing mind at night, man, like that's a very real thing. That's a very, very real thing. And so, yeah, I think trying to go to bed at the same time every night could help quite a bit. And then the hours before midnight could also help quite a bit. And, obviously dark room, cool room. I mean, these things always really helped me out a lot. And then, not a ton of TV before bed. That actually has helped me out too. And so there's kind of another thing. So reason number 3, lack of sleep. So, all right. So reason number 4. Oh, let's get that comment off there. So reason number 4 is inconsistent water intake. So your inconsistent water intake. All right. So this is another one that I've seen before. And this is, it's a lot less likely. It's a lot less common than some of the other ones. Then, of course, the food and the fuel intake. That's going to be the number one culprit, like almost every single time. But another thing that I have seen happen enough of the time that it made it to the top 4 on this list, inconsistent water intake. Because what a lot of people don't understand is when you remain hydrated and you drink a lot of water, it actually keeps your body very dry. It actually keeps your body from holding water. It's when your water intake is inconsistent, or of course it's consistently low, that your body is going to want to hold water because it doesn't know when more water is coming, to use, very scientific language on the Weekly Shred here tonight. But if you keep your water intake high, your body just gets used to and familiar with the water levels that you're giving it, and it flushes all that water out. So you stay dry, you stay tight all the time. But if your water levels start to fluctuate quite a bit, then that could lead to some really odd readings on the scale, like some real issues with weight loss. Not usually in the long term, so that's why this was only number 4 on the list. But in the short term, for a couple of days or even a couple of weeks, depending on the situation, it can do some really crazy things on the scale. Because, not again, but also when you actually increase your water intake, right? So you've been consistently low for a while, or you've been inconsistent for a while. When you actually bump up your water intake, then all of a sudden the scale is going to shoot higher. And that can be psychologically, that can really do a number on you. Where you're like, wait a second, man. Like, this random guy on the internet told me that I should increase my water intake, and I just did, and I just gained 1.5 pounds. And I didn't eat anything yesterday. So how did this possibly happen? Well, your body, you got to give your body a chance to catch up, right? You got to give your system a chance to process all that new liquid and process all that H2O. And it will, but you have to, give it time to go through, those new water levels. But if you are inconsistent with your water intake, your body never gets a chance to kind of figure itself out. And so that can be an issue. So those are the top 4 reasons why you're not losing weight. You're eating too much, lack of sleep, and then inconsistent water intake. If you are in a situation where you're not losing weight, it is almost definitely going to be one of those 4 things. With the top 2, of course, being the primary drivers tonight. But I also want to throw in a couple of honorable mentions tonight. So if you're not losing weight, so we've talked about 4 things that are likely the cause of that lack of weight loss. I wanted to talk about 2 things that are almost definitely not the cause of that lack of weight loss. So let's toss a couple honorable mentions out there tonight. So the first thing that it's not, and you're going to hear this a lot, is too much sodium. So some of you might be thinking, Jim, that's crazy, man. How can that even be the case, bro? Every time I go to P.F. Chang's, my body weight goes higher. Every time I have sushi, my body weight goes higher. Right? As if, only Asian food has sodium in it. But here's what I mean. This is not going to be a chronic thing. This is not going to be the thing that causes a weight loss plateau or a weight loss sticking point for you. And here's the reason why. If you are training at a high level, which I'm assuming you are, right? Because, the Weekly Shred, I hope that I hope everybody who checks out the Weekly Shred can get a little something from what we do every Thursday night. But I'm primarily talking to those of us out there that are very serious about our training. Those of us out there that really want to, make a go at, getting in the best shape of our lives and staying in the best shape of our lives. So I'm not necessarily talking to brand new beginners. So with that assumption, if you are training really hard, then that means that your body needs that sodium. That means that your body is craving that sodium. And so when you feed your body enough sodium, it's going to put that sodium to good use. Now, what do I mean by enough sodium? I mean 2, 3, 4,000 milligrams per day. Now, of course, again, check with your doctor, right? Don't take some rando guy's, advice on the internet and just run with that. Like, check with an actual doctor. I'm just a doctor in something else that has nothing to do with sodium or health or anything of that nature. But 2, 3, 4,000 milligrams a day, if you're an athlete and you're training at a high level, that's what your body needs. That's absolutely what your body needs. And your body will adjust to that high sodium level. And so the increase in sodium in your diet, again, if you go to P.F. Chang's, if you have sushi, if you just find yourself gnawing on a salt lick, right? Like, yeah, your body weight might go higher for a day or two, but it's not going to be a chronic thing. It's not going to be a plateau that you then have to break through. Here's a funny story. So, speaking of sodium, so this was in 2017. I was about 2.5 or 3 weeks out from my 2 bodybuilding shows in 2017 when I was fortunate enough to win the novice title in my first show and almost turned pro in my second show. But I was 2.5 weeks out from those 2 competitions, and we were living in Chicago at the time. We came to Florida. We visited Florida. We came back from Florida, and all of a sudden, man, on the plane ride home, I just felt like absolute garbage. I felt like porcelain, man. I was like, whoa, I don't know what just happened to me, but I feel really, really terrible. Turns out, long story short, I was severely sodium depleted. My training demands were so high, right, with all the weightlifting, all the cardio, all the intervals, all the everything, right? I was routinely eating about 5,000 milligrams of sodium per day, and I was severely sodium depleted. Now, I didn't go to the doctor. I didn't have this formally checked out, and here's how I figured out that I was severely sodium depleted. When I thought about it, I'm like, man, I think I might be sodium depleted. Like, what should I do? Well, I just started palming pickles, man. I just started palming these dills, and then the next thing I knew, within like an hour, I felt amazing. Within like an hour, I felt like a new man. I was like, I'm ready for the show now. Like, let's do it. Can we do it today? Because I'm ready. So then I just kind of backed into it using some deductive reasoning. I'm like, well, I guess I was sodium depleted. And so that's just one example of the simple fact that when you are an athlete and your training demands are regularly high, you need a lot of sodium. So sodium is not the thing that's causing you to not be able to lose weight. The second thing I want to talk about, though, that it is not, is just not a special circumstance. And what do I mean by that? This is another thing that I get all the time. In fact, I was just messaging with a guy the other day where he was just like, hey, like, I don't know what's going on. I'm tracking everything. I can't lose weight, blah, 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 blah. You're not a special circumstance in the standpoint that it's very, very unlikely. It's possible, but it's very, very unlikely that the laws of thermodynamics do not apply to you. It's very, very unlikely that calories in, calories out just simply doesn't work for you. That math equation, for whatever reason, just does not apply to your system and your body and your metabolic functions, because it applies to everyone else, right? It is literally a mathematical truism that cannot be escaped. It is the thing, excuse me, it is the thing that is controlling, your body's weight loss, weight gain, weight maintenance, all of those things. And so, is it possible that you have some, unique condition that is causing your metabolic rate to not be, whatever it needs to be, or whatever it would be to be kind of in a normal state? Of course, right? And some people have some very serious things like thyroid conditions and things of that nature, but those are still more few and far between. So it's not something that we should turn to as the original reason for why we might not be losing weight, for the original reason for why we might not be achieving the weight loss that we want to achieve. And I know that's kind of some tough love. And I know that's kind of like, man, Jim, I didn't really want to hear that, man. Like, I wanted to hear that I'm special because my mom thinks I'm really special. But what I'm trying to do is just give you guys what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear. And so, most likely, again, to bring everything full circle tonight, it's calories in, calories out, man. Most likely, your calories in, they're just too high. They're too high relative to the calories out that your body is burning. So, man, that is it. Wow, 40 minutes later, the weekly shred is in the books. That was really good. Man, you guys are amazing. Some great comments tonight. Great time in the chat box. I had a lot of fun bringing them on over into the production tonight. And so I really hope you guys got a little bit of value tonight. If you guys want to hit the video with a thumbs up, that would be amazing. If you guys want to share this link with a friend, that would also be doubly amazing. And make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hop on down to the description, pick up some free swag. I've got the fat loss formula down there. I've got a free cardio plan down there. And then, of course, check out livefcube.com for some more content around fitness things and faith things and even a few finance things that I'm not doing with what I do with Tasty Trade, of course. And that's it, man. We will be back next Thursday night. And one final comment. It looks like Jones, my man Jones, dropped back in here. He said, do you mean I have to eat less? You, sir, have been paying very close attention tonight. That is outstanding. That is very close to what I'm saying tonight. So that's good stuff. He says, oh, and he followed it up with a not appealing quote. Yeah, I know. It's not fun, man. It's not fun. But hey, once again, it's gimmies and gotchas, right? You just have to figure out how valuable, how important is that studio space in Shredsville to you? Is it really important? Then you got to do what needs to be done. Is it not that important? Then that's okay. But then you can eat a little bit more and you can not be in Shredsville. And that's fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But again, we just have to be real with the expectations that surround what it is that we're trying to accomplish. So, man, that is it. You guys are amazing. I had a ton of fun tonight. We'll be back next Thursday. In the meantime, check out the podcast. I upload the video versions of the podcast on the YouTube channel now too. You can check out the audio versions on, Apple Podcasts and Spotify and pretty much wherever you guys listen to podcasts. And then next Wednesday, we also have a fun little faith thing that I'm doing with my sister-in-law here on the YouTube channel. So you guys can kind of be on the lookout for that. That'll be Wednesday afternoon. And I think that's it, man. You guys are absolutely amazing. I hope you guys have a great rest.